Right. So, hi, Anthony.
Hi Nick, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for coming on. So, look, just a little bit of a introduction. We're obviously here from Algarve. It's the usual channel people come through. And one of the sort of topics, I suppose, that's been irking me a little bit has been around currencies and what's been happening since our friend across the pond has caused a few problems with with tariffs, and it's set a few alarm bells along off amongst some of our clients. So um, it's not just that we're going to focus on, but I thought it was really good to reach out to our currency partners and actually ask for you. And I believe you're a trader, so I'm gonna jump in and let you introduce yourself. But thanks for coming on, and yeah, tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yes, so I'm Anthony Colocasidou, employed at Currencies Direct here in Canary Wharf, our head office. I've been in my 20th year now, coming into the business, and
Wow.
my job role is head of dealing, looking after our private clients.
Okay. Perfect. So you know a fair bit about currency then.
Yes, a little bit.
Good. Good. We'll test you today.
Appreciate it. No worries.
So look, I mean, as I say, like the focus for me was initially around kind of the impact. It's certainly, we've had a few clients go, oh, hang on, Portugal might not be that attractive anymore because of the euro dollar, and what, and the sort of the weakening of it. So their money's not going quite as far as it was.
Yeah.
So like, that there are moments where this is kind of sort of micro moment in time when things happening. But I'd love to get your take on sort of, I suppose, these last few crazy weeks, where we were, where we ended up, and perhaps where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, if you look back, even just before the last few weeks, the markets were relatively stable.
Mm.
The US economy looked in good shape. Their economic growth and the labour market were relatively solid. US inflation was also slightly elevated versus the Fed's 2% target, but overall, most economists expected this to sort of resolve going into this year or even to the year after. But
Mm.
since Trump's tariffs, the shock of that, it sort of spooked the markets. As only recently he cut China's tariffs down, I think, from 145% to around 30%. And over the weekend, we saw Moody's, the US credit agency, downgrade the US's
Yeah.
status down from AAA. So, and now we're also hearing about the US politicians trying to push for a new spending bill through Congress. So lots going on. But generally, the markets are still not doing too bad. We're around 0.89, 0.9 for dollar euro. And, if you go back even over the past few years, it hasn't really moved too much away from where it is now, actually. So we've sort of come back to the same sort of level than where we've seen.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I suppose, have you seen any bounce back at all since the shock? I mean, is it trading between ranges at the moment, or what's the sort of that position?
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, I think the markets are still trying to digest all what's happening with these tariffs because it's took everyone by surprise. The stock markets are down. It's weighing heavily on the dollar still at the moment. But so far, I think it's like a wait and see moment. We're still waiting to see what these markets are, what they're pricing into the dollar at the moment. The dollar is obviously coming under a lot of pressure at the moment. So unfortunately, like everybody, it's just a bit of a wait and see moment.
Yeah, I mean, it looks from stats that the sort of the history since 2018 has definitely been in favor of the dollar. We now and now it seems to just taken that shift, obviously for the variety of reasons. But I suppose like we bring this into like a today. Like if we're looking at someone who's moving today, and a lot of our clients are, you know. Making the move with a large financial capital sum to buy a house, not all of them, but some of them, and then the others, and then most of them are bringing income in from a passive, income sources, and obviously then it's changing on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, and that if they're quite tight on budget, that might end up impacting them on that change. So, I suppose what tools and advice would you give to someone who is coming in either on let's just take the big capital spend first. Whether that's someone now looking to buy within the year, or indeed bring a load of rental money to forward pay a contract for 12 months, or indeed they could be in the next 2 to 3 months. What sort of tools do they have available?
Yeah, so there's quite a few tools. I mean, if you just look back at the beginning of this year, for example, when Trump went in power around January 20th, when he was sworn in, I think the dollar at that time was around 0.97 to the euro. So, if you convert to, say, $100,000, you would have got 97,000 euros for your money. And, fast forward to where we are today, that same $100,000 will only get you now around 88,000 to 89,000 euros. So there's a big difference. So, and what we offer for our clients is not just booking on a normal spot trade where they book and then pay and then the money goes straight out within a few days, but we also have what we call a forward contract. So that will let you book a rate, i.e. today, but for a future date. So, for example, if our clients wanted to book that in January, they would have had that guaranteed return of 97,000 euros compared to what it is today. There's obviously a bit of a risk element because, by booking the rate in advance, you obviously take out the fact that rate could also go higher. There's that risk element. But if you like certainty, and certainly when you're buying a property, then the forward option's always a good tool to have because
you
know what you're going to buy for that property instead of sort of speculating.
Yeah. So hang on, let me play dumb for a minute, or not play dumb, just be dumb. So I'm today. Yeah, I'm talking to you about, as you say, 100,000. What am I doing? Picking a rate that I want.
So we'll basically price you off today's rate. So today's rate is around 88. So if you wanted $100,000, we know that you'll be getting 88,000 euros. We can fix that rate for up to 12 months.
Fine.
And that rate will not change, regardless of what happens in the market. The beauty of that is that you've got certainty of what your property is costing you. So you don't have to obviously have the worry of that rate constantly changing because there's always a risk that rate could move lower and then you're going to have to fork out a few thousand euros more to buy that property. So there's always that risk element if you don't forward book because you're basically speculating that the rate's going to move higher. Should you not want to take advantage of that.
So you're guaranteeing yourself the certainty of rate at a level you believe is comfortable.
Exactly that, yeah. And certainly in Portugal, you'll know when you're buying off-plan new builds, you have to usually put these down in stage payments. Now, ideally, you want to fix all of those stage payments so you know what the overall cost is. But you can also, hedge yourself. You can always buy some. Some people don't want to forward book. They want to sort of play the market a little bit and they book it in stages, which is another good option to do. You sort of hedge yourself that way as well.
Yeah, so it's an averaging tool.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and that implies, I suppose. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, if you can, if you can win and lose on that, right? You're still looking forward, and you're still thinking, okay, well, it might go up, it might go down, or you choose to buy, smaller bits at different rates and try and really play the field. But those forward contracts, they're relatively instantaneous, right? Like, so I could be looking at it today, or I could say to you, hey, can you give me the heads up when the rate hits this? And if so, let's crack on.
Yeah, we have another tool that's called a limit order. So you can specify an amount you want to transfer at a specific rate. So we will set that up in our system and it will track the market for you 24/7. When that rate becomes available, i.e. your target rate, we will then purchase those euros on your behalf. And then you can start sending us the dollars as of when you need them. So we have this tool in place. A good
yeah, I like that one. On that though, you've got. I mean, let's just say, like you I think you said we're at 0.88, right?
Yep.
What are the sort of? I mean, I know it's what are the normal daily, sort of fluctuations? Is it quite? Are we talking at 1%? Are we thinking a lot lower than that? What are
usually less than that? It's around at the moment we're seeing about just under around 0.5% movement.
Right.
But we have seen some big swings. If you look, like I said, when Trump was in power at the beginning of Jan, it's at 0.97, and I think this year, it's moved around 7% so far this year, dollar euro. So, in 5 months, it's moved 7%.
Okay, but that's not normal.
Not no.
No,
No,
you need major economic, sort of, global things to be moving at that. So
yeah.
typically speaking, outside of these moments, you're looking at 0.5% movements,
So possibly around 1-2% max in a month, usually, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, there is, so you hold on for the month, you play, on that, then I suppose you're looking at small fractions, but
You're
when
looking,
you translate it to cash, it's big.
absolutely, yeah, and that's part of our job as well. We should be updating our clients on these type of movements. Even if they have a limit order or if they don't have a limit order, we will still be keeping our clients abreast of the situation, what's happening in the market. We can't obviously advise them what's going to happen, but we will certainly be, watching the
Yeah.
markets and updating them for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the speculative gambler, and then there's the advice-driven, reactive. Because at the end of the day, you're waiting for the movement, right, and trying to lock it in, post that movement happens. And unless you have that forward, hang on, the limit order, you're not going to be capturing that amount. So I could say to you, hey, actually, when it comes to 0.97, buy me 100,000's worth, but that might not happen for a long time now because a 7% move is a big swing.
Correct. It may not happen. And then some
Yeah,
clients will also then want to put in a few different limit orders. They may
yeah,
realize that at the moment the market's around 88. They may put one at zero 0.9, may put another one at 0.92. Again, they can hedge themselves that way. We don't know, obviously, without speaking to the client, how long they have. If they haven't got a really big time frame to play with, then sometimes
yeah.
it's not wise just to have quite a few in there because it may never reach that. Also, we ask our clients, what sort of levels have you budgeted yourself on buying that property at, just in case
Mm,
they've got a lower level which they can't go under, or they may not be able to afford the property at. So we can put these sort of caps in place for our clients as well.
yeah. Okay. It's and what else? Are there any other sort of contracts that you can do, or is it getting complicated from there on in?
No, we have regular transfers where we can set up on an ongoing basis for our clients, where we'll be our clients can say, can you call me every month to book a certain amount of euros for my bills or uh,
Yeah.
rental payments. We'll do that. They have the option to trade online via our online system or our app 24/7.
Okay.
Uh, the main contract, certainly on buying property, is either a spot contract, a forward contract, or a limit order.
Okay. So really, I mean, I suppose my takeaway is have that conversation when you're talking about a lot of money, and to those that are thinking, "Hey, I want to do this in a year's time or 6 months' time or whatever." Start looking at it because it can save you a lot of money, right?
Absolutely. So
You
ideally
know,
we would like to speak to the client at the beginning of the process.
yeah,
Once we've found the property, we know when their deposit's due. We can then find out when their balance is due. So then we can sort of tailor, their requirements with the contracts that we have.
but but sorry, Anthony, but even then, I think for me, it's earlier than that. I mean, yes, at that moment in time, they know they've got a fixed transaction happening. But if someone's made the commitment to move here, for me, I think it's more sensible to say, well, look, I know I want to spend 750,000, right? Say 500,000, 200,000, 50,000, whatever the amount is. And if they've got it, start looking, or at least look at the deposit aspect early, because you know there aren't many clients we deal with that go in saying, "Hey, I want 250 and buy 500," or even the other way around. So most people know what they're budgeting at, and even if they are getting a mortgage, they've still got that deposit level to go. So for me, I think I'd say, hey, at the moment you are going to buy or even move a lot of money for rental,
Yeah,
or even in my mind, if you've got an income coming in, and you don't want that problem, well, have a look at if you've got savings, move them in either a lump sum or in clever ways, rather than waiting to the spot price on the 28th when the money comes in, and then you're averaging by nature, but you could end up losing out.
absolutely. The earlier the better. You've got more time to plan. We've got more time to watch the markets. Uh, you know, Plus our clients can even pop in and see our local offices in Portugal, Spain. They can go and speak to people on the ground that know how everything works locally. So we've
Yeah.
got we've got everything in place set up. So absolutely, the earlier the better they can speak to us. It will benefit them for sure.
Yeah, because as I say, I think it's I mean, we're at the moment talking about the big stuff, but even just holiday money, it can still make a fair bit of difference, especially if you lose 7% with some tariff swings. And look, I mean, I'm in no way, shape, or form providing financial advice here, and and I sort of but in many senses, you look at it and go, well, the chaos that happened, the chaos can happen again, even if it swings back because of things that happen, right? Like it's anything right now seems very possible.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. The markets are uneasy. We don't know when Trump's at the helm.
Mm.
Anything can happen at any point, and that's why the markets are still on tenterhooks at the moment. And that's why it's critical to speak to people like us to give advice on what the markets are doing, what could potentially happen, and to
So
keep
what
us updated.
how does that work? So like if I'm a client, I've signed up to Currencies Direct. How am I getting notified on that? Is it through the app? Is it through emails directly from brokers? How does that work?
Well, we can either call our clients
Yeah.
and update them. We can set up rate alerts so they can let us know what sort of levels they'd like. We can set them up so they have mail shots that come out, newsletters to update them on the markets, and they can also see any information that's on our web on a daily basis as well in the
Okay.
analysis that we provide.
Yeah, to be frank, I like the idea of having someone to talk to, especially when it comes to big money, right? It's just
Yeah,
it sort of feels safer.
well, it is, and it's comforting to know that someone knows what you're doing. They can speak to us. They have the same account manager throughout their period that they're with us. And again, like I said, they can even pop in the branch and see us as well if need be.
Yeah. So is there any, what's the opinion on the ground? Do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better? Is it going to get better before it gets worse? I mean, you,
It,
you said it earlier about that bill coming through. That doesn't
yeah,
sound
well,
good.
that's the thing. But there's potential that the dollar could weaken before it does get
Mm.
better. Some reports that I've read think that it could even touch as low as 0.83 this year before it does
Oh
start
wow.
to get better. There's a bit of confidence coming in the Eurozone now. That's been boosted with Germany launching that $500 billion investment aimed at revitalising their economy, etc. But ultimately, it's still down to the markets being uneasy still with what Trump's going to do next, unfortunately. And a lot of
Yeah.
investors have seemed to have lost a bit of confidence now in the dollar.
So I guess you can look back and go, well, yesterday is gone, right? Yesterday the 0.97 is not there at the moment, but as you say, there's a chance it could hit 0.83 if it follows that trend, and things don't look great. So this is exactly why this thing's set up, right? And this call is happening because these things might happen. So why risk it? If you're certain you're coming, look at booking those bits of money in and save yourself some money just in case.
Exactly that, correct. Yep.
Cool. So, like, in terms of how you guys work, from the first relationship sort of meeting, all the way through to there. Sort of, how did it typically work with you guys?
So, our client may call us up. They could be looking. Let's just say they're looking to buy a property in Portugal. They found something they like, and the agent or yourselves have recommended our services. They will then call us up to say, I found you via Algarve Addicts. I'm buying in Portugal. We'll then find out a bit more information, i.e., the timescales, the amount they're looking to do, their sort of budget that they have, whether they've sort of got a level on the rate where they can afford the property at. And then again,
Yeah.
we'll be going through the whole cycle with them. So we'd ask, when's your deposit due? Do you have all the banking details? We'll get all that information from them. So we plan everything ready. So we will know when they need to be called. We'll provide them with our banking details so they can make payments to us, etc. At the time. And then we'll be notifying them, either on a daily or a weekly basis in terms of rate movements, all the way until the point that their property is completed. And then again, we'll follow that up after that, even with their bill payments and extra bits and pieces that they may need to
Okay.
do after that stage.
But I mean, we're talking about the dollar euro pairing, but you cover a lot of currencies around the world, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We
You
do
know,
most
so for
currencies. Yep.
so the clients pop into Brazil for holiday. Hey, you can use the platform to buy, whatever it is that you need. I can't even remember the Brazilian country. It's terrible, isn't it?
That's it.
You know. Is what? Sorry.
Brazilian reals.
There you go. There you go. See, you're the expert, not me. But they can use the platform to do the same thing.
They can use the platform again. They can call us. A majority of clients, they like to speak to us. They always feel comfortable with someone else on the phone speaking to an expert. And we specialize in these transfers, and we're slightly obviously different to the banks, where the banks will offer foreign exchange just as an add-on service. But this is only what we specialize in, doing these sort of bank-to-bank transfers at a very good exchange rate. And we want to make sure our clients' monies get from A to B at the quickest possible time and at the best rate.
And what kind of, I mean, I suppose, yeah, what is the sort of the difference then between you and let's just say an American bank, because that's what we've been focusing on in pairings at the moment.
Yeah, some banks in the US, they can typically charge anywhere around 4 or 5% margins. Our margins are a lot tighter than that. It depends on volume. It depends on how big, much volatility is going through at any given time, the volume of the transactions, etc. So our margins are much, much lower. But typical spreads from banks, I would imagine, should be around. I've even known some banks in the US charge around 6-7% on some transactions.
And is that for any type of transaction, that card transaction on the ground, buying your coffee on the ground here, or are we talking sort of the bigger movements?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Generally, we get the clients from the US where they've experienced quite a bad service from their own local bank and with a poor exchange rate. And that's when they start to look elsewhere. That's when they'll come to us to get a comparison rate. And then that's when we start to look after that client from there.
And I think we agree, on the same side as you can see people pouring money away, even if it's just completely by accident, just not having the knowledge, which is why we want these videos to go. Because even just, on the holiday spend, it's not cheap to fly across the Atlantic and get down here and then, have a month's scouting tour or anything else. And you're still going to spend money. And, that 4 to 8% is quite a lot of money to be losing, on that as well.
It is, yeah. And it's a shame because a lot of clients, they don't know, that companies like Currencies Direct exist. They would typically just use their bank. But once they know that we've got a presence and they can see us, it gives them a lot of reassurance.
Perfect. Okay. Well, look, that's all really from me, I think. Is there anything else you want to add to it at all?
No, just, if you have any clients that would like to speak to us, to ask any advice or to check any rates, feel free to speak to us anytime. We'd be happy to help.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll put some links in the description, and we can help forward people on, should they want to have that conversation. But look, Anthony, thank you for your time. I've not tried to get into too deep a technical stuff. That's one, I'm not, but two, I think it's the high level stuff we want to get into, and if the clients want to get into more detailed stuff on how all those contracts work, I think they should reach out and get in touch and get into the detail there.
Would love to speak to them for sure, definitely.
Amazing. Well, look, thanks for your time. Enjoy the sun in Canary Wharf.
Thank you. Yes, we'll try, certainly.
Cheers. Thank you, Anthony. Bye.
AlgarveAddicts.com